The shrine of the Bab stands majestically in the heart of Mount Carmel, overlooking the Bay of Haifa and the ancient city of Akka in the distance. This iconic, golden-domed shrine is the final resting place of the Bab, the prophet herald of the Baha'i faith, whose earthly remains came to rest here after a long and perilous journey from his native Persia. The beauty of this shrine and the terraces and gardens radiating out therefrom are a triumphal testament to the heroism of one whose story began 200 years ago. Sayyid Ali Muhammad, known to history as the Bab, meaning the gate, was born on 20 October 1819 in Shiraz, Persia. His father having passed away when he was only a small child, the Bab was raised in the care of his uncle. By all accounts, the Bab was an extraordinary child, possessed of knowledge and wisdom far beyond his years, leaving his teachers at a loss for how to educate such a pupil. While he followed his uncle into trade as a merchant and never formally pursued the studies of the priestly class of Persia, he was always distinguished by the sincerity and fervor of his devotion to God. In 1844, at the age of 24, the Bab proclaimed that he was the bearer of a revelation from God, and that he was the forerunner of a divine messenger, greater than himself, who would soon appear and whose teachings would inaugurate an era of global peace and justice promised in all the world's scriptures. His own title, the Bab, represented his station as the gate, opening the way from the age of expectation to the age of fulfillment under the teachings of this future promised messenger of God. The Bab's teachings, calling for the upliftment of women and the poor, advocating universal education and the study of the sciences, and announcing the imminent coming of a new age, excited the hopes of people from all walks of life in Persia, and spread with remarkable speed across the country. The civil and ecclesiastical authorities of Persia were greatly alarmed at the sudden appearance of the Babi movement, recognizing its challenge to the age-old orthodoxy upon which their positions depended. They arose swiftly to try to suppress the new religion, imprisoning and killing thousands of the Bab's followers, and sending the Bab himself into exile and imprisonment in the remote mountains of Azerbaijan. In 1850, the Bab was publicly executed under dramatic circumstances in this public square in Tabriz, and his remains were hidden away by his followers. Though deprived of its leader and many of its early heroes, far from being extinguished, the Babi movement would be reinvigorated and reborn in the fulfillment of its greatest promise, the coming of another, greater divine teacher. In 1852, one of the last surviving prominent followers of the Bab, Mirza Hussein Ali, was arrested, tortured, and cast into a notorious subterranean dungeon of Tehran, known as the Black Pit. In the foul gloom of this dungeon, he experienced the first stirrings of revelation, later writing, "The breezes of the All-Glorious were wafted over me, and taught me the knowledge of all that hath been. This thing is not from me, but from one who is almighty and all-knowing. And he bade me lift up my voice between earth and heaven." He is known to history as Baha'u'llah, meaning the glory of God, and his followers came to be known as Baha'is. After being released and banished to Baghdad, he began the work of rebuilding and guiding the dispirited Babi community. In 1863, he publicly declared that he was the promised one foretold by the Bab, whose teachings would become the foundation of new age of human progress, articulating a world-embracing vision of peace, unity, and justice. The oneness of God and religion, the oneness of mankind, the elimination of all forms of prejudice, the absolute prohibition of slavery and violence, and the equality of women and men are among the founding principles of the faith of Baha'u'llah. It was Baha'u'llah's further exiles through the Ottoman Empire that finally brought the Baha'i faith to the Holy Land. His final banishment to the city of Akka in 1868 was the last of his successive exiles. Imprisoned in the citadel for 2 years, and then under successive periods of house arrest in or near Akka over the course of more than 2 decades, Baha'u'llah lived out his days in the environs of that city. Baha'u'llah passed away in 1892 and was laid to rest at Baji, from where the magnificent gardens now radiate, permanently fixing the Baha'i World Center in the Holy Land. The Shrine of Baha'u'llah is the holiest site and the main place of pilgrimage for Baha'is, and the point to which they turn in daily prayer. Thus it was that in 1908, after over 50 years of being hidden and transported in secret from place to place, the remains of the Bab were finally laid to rest in Haifa, on Mount Carmel, at a site which had been visited and designated for that purpose by Baha'u'llah himself. The erection of the Shrine of the Bab on Mount Carmel was one of the central achievements of Abdul Baha, Baha'u'llah's son and appointed successor. The original, simple stone structure was later crowned with a golden dome. Today, it is an iconic symbol of the city of Haifa, attracting thousands of visitors every day. The story of the Bab is one of hope for a bright future for mankind, the hope and conviction that God has not abandoned his children, but rather has opened a new and stunning vista to the eyes of mankind of a world united and living in abiding peace and justice.